Now that you understand what GNAF Core is and how it's created, you might want to then move on to why is it useful and what you can do with it. So over the next couple of slides, I'll give you a couple of real life examples for how some of our customers are using GNAF Core in their business. But before I do so, I just wanted to cover off this common thread which all of these case studies have, which is that address is really just a starting point, but it is a critical foundational starting point in order to know the location that you're interested in and to then confidently build up more insights on top of that. So often, and what you'll see in the examples, is that the address is really an entry point into all sorts of other property intelligence and insights. So you can do things like, for this one address that I care about, tell me what is the size of the land parcel that that address is related to, what is the zoning and the permitted uses of that land parcel, how many buildings are at that location, what's the total floor area of all those buildings, how high elevated is the first floor of that building off of the ground, is there pools here, is there solar here? It goes on, but it's not just these raw data points that we're interested in. It's actually what we can do and what we can calculate using them. So, for example, if we know the total floor area and we know there's presence of solar panels and we have an indication of what that building is being used for, we can do some really interesting stuff like estimate how much gas and electricity is being used at that building and therefore estimate how much carbon emissions are being emitted at that building. And we can tie that back to an address as well. So if you're a bank, you might be interested in this sort of calculation or insight for any mandatory reporting that you have to do. Or if you're a local council, you might want to be tracking what sort of carbon emissions are being emitted in your area, and you might want to report on the effectiveness of any net zero initiatives that you're undertaking. Just to cover off another example with the first floor elevation, what we can do is we can look at addresses that we care about, we can look at buildings at those addresses and how elevated that first floor is from the ground. And this can give us a really good insight into that home's potential impact from something like a flood event. So you can understand things like maybe that house is located in a high-risk flood zone, but it's unlikely to be inundated because of the elevation of that first floor. So if you're an insurer, this might mean that you're more willing to insure that home and you can more accurately price any premiums. So many of our customers have addresses and databases of addresses that they're interested in that might represent their customers. And we often find that they've got messy or unstructured or unvalidated address information. So an approach to sort of validate and gain confidence in your customer address information is by matching it to an official GNAF address. Not only will this clean up your address data, but it also helps you build confidence in where that location is so that you can tap into all of these other insights yourself.